Okay.
That's better.
Welcome, Tony, to talking about history, writing history, in fact. First question I have for you, where did it all start for you? Have you always written history?
No, not at all. I started off writing magazine articles, and I had a technical background, so I was writing for a magazine called Computer Weekly, which at the time was avidly read by all the technical IT guys. And then I kind of broadened out and started writing more generally. And I was working in project management, so I wrote an ebook about agile project management, which I self-published on the embryonic Amazon Kindle, which was people had questions about whether it would even be popular at the time because you had to code it all in HTML.
Oh my,
And,
yes.
it took me hours to do, but partly because there was almost no competition, it went to number one in project management books in the
Oh
USA.
my gosh.
So I was absolutely astounded. And I kind of lodged that information away at the back of my mind. But where my writing career really started, I was actually born. I live in Pembrokeshire in Wales, and I was
Yeah.
born in the town of Pembroke, which of course is where Pembroke Castle is, which is where Henry Tudor was born. And I decided I'd learn a bit about poor old Henry Tudor because he had a bit of a bad reputation as a miserly,
Yeah, yeah,
fairly dour character.
yeah.
And I couldn't find the book I wanted to read. They were fairly dry um, academic books, and the very few historical fiction books that I could find uh, quickly veered away from the facts as I understood them.
Yeah.
So I decided to, as a bit of a hobby, to collect information about Henry VII. And I was in a privileged place to do it because it was all on my doorstep.
Well,
And had enough material, I decided in the end to write a trilogy, which was where Henry would be born in the first book, he would come of age in the second book, and become King of England in the third. And
okay.
I really enjoyed that.
Because
I really enjoyed
I
that.
actually thought your first books were to do with Owen Tudor for some reason.
Yeah,
Because
that's right.
you seem to be doing you definitely, you started
Well,
back in the early Tudor period,
yeah.
even before, and now you've worked towards you've passed the Elizabethan and now you're
Yeah.
into the next. So you
Well,
are.
what I decided, because Henry was a baby in the first book,
Yeah,
poor Margaret Beaufort giving birth to him in
yeah,
Pembroke Castle, I decided that the proper starting point was the first meeting of Owen Tudor with the Dowager Queen Catherine of Valois.
yeah,
And my wife and I actually went to Windsor Castle and did as much research there as we could, getting a sense of the place and everything, because that's where they met.
yeah,
So the first book was Owen, and then from there I moved on to Jasper,
yeah.
because Jasper and Henry um, escaped to exile in
Mm,
Britain. And I followed in their footsteps all the way to the chateau in the forest in the middle of remote Brittany, where Henry stayed in exile.
yeah,
And then we returned and went to Bosworth Field for on the anniversary of the Battle of
yeah.
Bosworth to see the reenactment there, and all of that gave me a great sense of place and a sense of the scale of what I've been working on. And of course, over a trilogy, you can really explore a subject. So I could really explore the character
Mm.
of Henry in a way that it would be tricky to do in a single book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what I found was that um, Owen became a huge success. it was a bestseller in the UK and the US and Australia, and became number one in the Australian historical fiction chart on Australia Day, which was
It's
quite quite
interesting.
something. Yeah. Anyway, that gave me the confidence to become a full-time writer. I was
Mm.
in a nice position that I could afford to do that, take a bit of a gamble,
God,
and immerse myself.
I envy you so much. Not only are
Well,
you so close to everything, able to walk in the footsteps of your characters whenever you want. And but you also got, yeah, that bestseller. Oh, I did have occasional, I mean, with my second Anne Boleyn book, that did become a bestseller. So I can't really complain, can
yeah.
I? If you have it once in your writing life, you've got no reason to complain.
Well, the thing was that um, with because I'd had a couple of different careers. I was in the Royal Air Force for one career, then I was in the UK Health Service as a director of the Health
Mm,
Service in Wales. And then, as I said, I became a project management consultant. So it wasn't a huge gamble because I wasn't staking my house on it or anything, but um, I was still too young to be receiving a pension. So that motivated me to work really hard on
mm.
the next series, which was um, when poor old Henry VII was
Can
on
you
his
tell can you
deathbed.
tell me what's your stance on Henry the Seventh? Because you keep on saying poor old Henry, so you
Yeah,
obviously feel
uh,
sympathy for him.
he didn't. He wasn't miserly because he spent a fortune on clothes and really knew how to
Mm,
live. You know, the reason I say poor old Henry is that his reputation, he's remembered as miserly, which is kind of
mm,
ironic, really. And I was just about to say that he died an agonizing and rather drawn out death
mm.
uh, with his daughter Mary Tudor nursing him. And I became intrigued. The Tudors was on the television at the time,
Mm,
and the television series,
mm.
and they merged Mary and Margaret into one character,
Oh,
which was
horrible, horrible.
I,
And then they turned her into a Margaret who married the King of Portugal, who suffocated him. And yeah, I remember
I
that
just thought
scene.
it
I thought,
was I thought it
why?
was
Why?
unforgivable,
Yeah,
and that really encouraged me to try just that bit harder in terms of authenticity, and
okay.
I absolutely immersed myself in the Tudor times and read everything that I could and visited as many places as I could.
Mm,
But um, what it enabled me to do was to write a second trilogy then, which was all about Charles Brandon and his wives.
mm, mm,
And
mm,
that meant that I could um, really help to distinguish between Mary Tudor, Queen of France, and Mary Tudor, Queen of England,
mm,
which I can forgive people for getting confused. But it was fascinating to explore the relationship between um, Henry VIII and his youngest sister
yeah.
and see when she was married off to the King of France, who wasn't much of a catch, quite
No,
honestly.
no, no, no. In
And
that time, if you were in your early 50s, you were basically got almost 2 feet in the in the grave.
I had to explore how she felt about that and
Mm,
what it might have felt like to travel to France thinking you might never
mm.
come back again,
Yeah, she was
perhaps.
18, beautiful,
Yeah.
already in love with Charles.
And the part of the thing was she'd always known that something like this was going to happen.
Mm,
So it wasn't a huge shock to her. And it was kind of non-negotiable
mm,
because Henry VIII had already done the deal,
mm,
signed on the dotted line, and agreed um, peace with France in perpetuity on the basis of it. So basically, that was great fun, and of course I was able to then explore this character Charles Brandon, who once again in the television series The Tudors, they gave their particular
Mm,
version of him. But I visited his home at Westhorpe and basically got to learn a lot more about the real Charles Brandon. I visited his tomb in
mm,
St George's Chapel, and they said no photography allowed.
mm.
But sadly, my camera went off accidentally
Oh, I
right when I
see.
was
I
standing next to
see.
the
These
tomb.
these things do happen, don't they?
But no, and of course, then after Mary died, Charles Brandon promptly married
I
his
know.
his
Yes,
14-year-old
14.
ward,
Mm.
who just happened to be one of the richest heiresses in the
Yeah,
country,
yeah,
Catherine Willoughby,
yeah.
and a champion of the Protestant cause.
I know. She grew up to be a strong woman, didn't she?
Amazing. And I think people sometimes ask me which of the people I've written about are my favorite. But I must admit, I've got a fondness for Catherine Willoughby because I visited her house at Grimsthorpe and I stood in the room where she died. And you could sense her presence. And I'd arranged with the local vicar to go and see her tomb in the church nearby at Spilsbury. And basically, there was a bit of a mix-up because he thought I wanted the whole church to myself. So I was in there completely with no interruptions
Mm.
with Catherine Willoughby, and that was quite a poignant moment because I'd been living with her on and off for a couple of years, really,
Yep, yep,
and so that she was, of course, um, a great friend of Catherine Parr.
yep.
And in fact, in Lamentation of a Sinner, the foreword is dedicated to Catherine Willoughby
Mm,
and Cecil as well. So basically, you get that sort of triumvirate connection there with the Queen.
mm.
And the whole story about um, what happened when Queen Mary came to the throne, and Catherine had to escape
Yep.
for fear of her life. But of course, one of her best friends was a lady called Anne Askew. And people might know that
Yes.
Anne Askew was horribly tortured, but never named Catherine as one of her
Mm,
conspirators in supporting the Protestant
mm.
cause.
Yeah.
And that's quite a poignant bit of history there, isn't it? The whole thing
Oh,
about
I
how she
know.
had to be carried in a chair to be burnt at the stake
I
because she
know.
was unable to walk.
Yeah.
But she went to her death without betraying
Mm.
any of her friends. Isn't that an amazing
Yeah,
thing?
no. And I'm surprised that no one has written a novel about her.
It
She
was,
was a mother. I actually met someone who said that she was a descendant of her, and she didn't realize how she was she was a descendant on this courageous, amazing woman who, like you say, it was just what they did to her, the torture and then burning her at the stake, makes
I'm
my,
sure it'll come. That's a book that needs to be written.
it does,
But
doesn't it? It
but
does.
I enjoyed following Catherine on her exile across the
Yeah.
continent.
Well, she
Um,
actually, maybe you should know this question because one of the children of Catherine Carey, the elder daughter, what was, I think she was a Mary. I think if I remember right, she was a Mary. She actually, it looks like she went into service with Catherine Willoughby in Europe because when Elizabeth became queen, she was definitely in service to Catherine then, because she
but
wore Catherine's colours and everything,
yeah,
livery. So do you know about that? That if that's because that's what I'm assuming is that happened when Catherine Willoughby was in Europe, and Catherine Carey had at least five of her children with her, which
Yeah.
included her eldest.
Well, that's one of the fascinating things I found is when I started off with Owen Tudor, there
Yeah.
were there were no letters, there were
Mm,
um, no accounts, no sense of their actual voice,
mm,
and really you had to be working jolly hard with the scant material that you
mm,
had
mm.
to 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 follow the little clues
How
as
did you
to
cope with Charles Brandon's writing? Because his letter writing was
well, I
atrocious.
was what I've found is that there are always people that transcribe letters.
Oh, good.
So a lot of letters were written in Latin, which I didn't do, French, which I speak poorly, and I find transcribed editions of them. What I
Mm,
was going to say was that as I moved forward in time, I made those sort of eureka moments, the flash of
mm,
inspiration, where I realized if I carry on with this thread, I could tell the story of the Tudors right through from Owen Tudor's first meeting with Queen Catherine, right through to the last days of Queen Elizabeth I. And that gave me a challenge because how do you begin to convey the complex personality of somebody like Elizabeth
mm,
I in a way that's never been done
mm,
before? And it came to me almost in a dream, like that. I thought if I chose three of her favorite men, each of whom saw her very differently, and three of her ladies, I had plenty of ladies to
mm,
choose
mm,
from,
mm,
but the test was each of them should understand a different facet of her, you see,
mm, mm,
and then a reader. Working their way through the books. And I know that a lot of readers do
mm,
like to start with Owen and go all the way
mm,
through
mm,
because there is a thread that runs through it.
mm,
And a lot of people like um, William Cecil pop up in various books at different ages because
mm,
people that they knew. And the three men I chose were Francis Drake, who worshipped the Queen.
mm,
Uh, she was his Gloriana,
mm.
and he had a huge chip on his shoulder about being a commoner, really.
Yeah.
So he used to march in with caskets of gold and pearls and lay them before her. And then I moved on to the Earl of Essex, Robert Devereux, who arguably was the son she never had. And
Yes.
it's ironic because his mother was her nemesis.
Mm,
So like what an interesting relationship. That they used to play
mm,
cards late into the night, and he would bet everything. He would bet his horse and his house and his sword. Uh, but she never used to let him win, really. And
mm.
so that was quite interesting. And of course, that ended in tears.
Oh,
And then
yes.
the third man was Sir Walter Raleigh, who was actually the captain of her guard. So
Mm,
he was an employee, really. So he
mm.
saw it very differently again. So each of them has got a very different understanding of what this queen is all about.
Yeah.
Then the three ladies, none of them did I know very much about. So that was fun because I'd never even heard of Lady Penelope Rich. But
Really?
interestingly, well, I it just when I started researching it, obviously I
Oh,
soon to
okay.
understand. But at the when I started off with the idea of choosing three ladies, she wasn't one that
Mm,
came rushing to mind.
yeah.
And I was going to choose one of the better known ones. But
Mm,
basically, there's a connection here because um, she got married off to Baron Rich, whose father was Richard Rich, who tortured Anne Askew. So there's an
connection
interesting
there. Ooh.
connection all the way through.
Yep.
But sadly for her, she loved because she was Robert Devereux's sister. That's how I really started to get to know
Mm,
her, his
mm,
elder sister. So she was the closest thing he had to a real mother because his mother
mm.
Lettice Knollys was not a mother at all to any
mm,
of the children, I
mm,
don't think. But Penelope used to look after her brothers, and she really struggled to look after Robert Devereux.
mm,
But basically, she loved singing and dancing and music and partying. And then she was married off to a Puritan baron who hated all of those things. He
yeah.
thought they were the work of the devil
Mm,
and just wanted to lock her away and have her raise his son and heir, which she did actually.
mm,
She did raise his son and heir. But then the second of the three ladies that I chose was the daughter of the Queen's spymaster, Sir Francis Walsingham.
yeah.
And I came across her because she was a, a good friend of Penelope's.
Mm,
And she, uh, for reasons which I won't go into here now, but I can say that really Robert Devereux uh, promised that he would look after her. This
mm,
is Frances Walsingham, daughter of
mm,
Sir Francis Walsingham.
mm,
And she married him, which was a
mm,
fatal mistake
mm,
because of people to marry. He always had a string of liaisons at
mm,
court,
mm,
and she must have known that because through her father, he would know exactly what was going on. That 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 never was going to work out well.
yeah.
But it was really, really interesting to explore her life because that allowed me then the great events of the Elizabethan era. Her father, Sir Francis Walsingham, had a massive hand in it, whether it was the Spanish Armada or the sad end of Mary, Queen of Scots, or any of those things. Um, he was very pivotal in all of that. And I did consider writing a book just about him because I found so
Mm,
much information, but I decided to see it through the eyes of his daughter, which was good fun. And then the last of the three ladies um, was one of the most intriguing because I chose Bess Raleigh because she came from a very complicated Catholic
mm,
family background, and the it could hardly be worse, really, if you had to
mm,
choose your family
mm,
that that and she was only educated well enough to run a household, and then she was with this polymath, Sir Walter Raleigh, who could turn his hand to anything, really, it
mm,
seemed, and certainly he believed that, and that was a curious relationship because she was fiercely loyal to him. Whatever
mm,
he did, she remained
mm,
really loyal to him.
mm,
And she worked hard to keep up with him and to
mm.
educate herself. She used
Yeah.
to sit in on her son's tutors' lessons and try and pick up a bit of Latin or learn how to read and write.
Mm,
Um, she'd never read a book, I don't think, until then, and she didn't hesitate to write to people like Robert Cecil, one of the most powerful and influential people in the land.
mm,
She would write to him asking favors
mm.
in kind of pidgin English. She used
Mm.
to write um, these letters, which suddenly she'd run out of room, so she'd carry on writing up the side,
Mm,
a few of those.
mm,
What those letters gave me was not just a sense of her voice, but a sense of her character
mm,
and um, a deeper understanding of the relationships that she had with people like Robert Cecil and Elizabeth I. Because, of course, Robert was like one of the last people to speak to Elizabeth,
mm.
and I think is underrated in terms of the history of the Elizabethans. Um, but he provided me with a very convenient thread which runs through all those six books of that series.
Wow. Do you find it? I mean, you have written quite a few books now. using your female narrator. How do you navigate that? Do you ask a lot of questions of your wife?
Yeah, actually, my wife is my um, not just my proofreader, that's understating it.
Mm,
As I finish a chapter, she's the first person to read it
yep.
because um, the three ladies I just mentioned, all of them had nearly a child a
Mm,
year.
yep.
So I found that I was often having to, um, I couldn't ignore the fact that they'd had a child. And so basically, I found I was having to not be repetitive with the way that the children were born, you know.
Mm, mm,
And so I've got two children, so my wife was able to um, point me in the right direction if anything was either
mm,
slightly over the top or not quite hitting the mark.
yep.
And I enjoy the challenge of it because it was with the men, there was a lot of sailing ships and time
Mm,
away at sea and things like that. And with the women, um, it was about um, trying to understand the social dynamics of the court, and the relationships were much deeper and more important to
mm,
them than the politics, really. So that was quite fascinating to do.
mm. Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine. So, who are you? I think you might have mentioned your favorite female. Who was your favorite male character to write?
That's an interesting one. I think um, I started off not liking Robert Devereux because he was what we would call these days lacking in emotional intelligence, and
Mm,
he was a poor judge of character. Um, he might have been somewhere on the spectrum in terms of his um, sudden mood swings and
mm.
inability to cope with
He
situations.
suffered from depression, didn't he?
Yeah, well, the thing was, his father was poisoned in Ireland.
Mm,
Um, I think it's fairly conclusive that he was poisoned because
mm.
his servant who drank from the same cup also died on the
Okay.
same. I shouldn't
Yeah,
laugh.
yeah.
It's not. So Robert Devereux found himself as the Earl of Essex at the age of I think about 13 or something like that, and he was ill prepared for it. But he also was the poorest earl in the country.
Mm,
So, and his mother, Letty Knollys, as I've said, she used to suddenly turn up with Robert Dudley
mm,
and expect nobody to even so much as raise an eyebrow at that or draw inferences or anything like
mm,
that. And I personally think she started that whole liaison um, as a poke in the eye to Elizabeth the
oh, yeah,
First.
yeah.
And it developed into something else, and they had
Mm.
an illegitimate son, the little imp they called him,
I thought they were
and
married. I thought they were married.
yeah, they were
Yeah,
they had to
yeah.
they had to get married,
Yep,
but the son was on the way before they
yep.
got married.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, and it was actually um, Sir Francis Knollys who was a very he was Robert's grandfather, and he was very prim and proper and
Mm,
would not contemplate his daughter having a child out of wedlock.
mm,
Uh, but it was quite complicated. But I think they fell in love. They did love each other,
mm,
and the the casualty of all of that relationship was the children by the first marriage with
mm,
the first Earl of Essex, because they pretty much brought themselves up, you know. And
mm,
Penelope, that I've mentioned, she had to become an adult when she was about 12
mm,
and raise her brother and sister
mm,
as, as as if she was their mother, I think, you know.
mm,
It
mm.
made her grow up quicker than she would have perhaps normally.
Yeah, yeah. So that made you feel very much sympathetic to Robert.
Yeah.
These early experiences of having a poisoned father and all the things that were going on in his early life. And yeah, well, that probably does explain a lot, doesn't it? Because he obviously probably also lacked a father, um, a loving father steering
Oh,
hand
yeah, definitely.
in
Yeah.
his early life and everything. Yeah. If you were to describe the themes, are there themes in your storytelling that are important to you?
Very much so. I think one of the themes is um, the way that women were so dreadfully underestimated in Tudor
Mm, mm,
times, but they understood that and they rose above it and had a role which I think that people are only now starting to properly understand.
mm,
So certainly when I did history at school, um, I didn't hear much mention of any of these women I've been talking about. Obviously, Elizabeth the First, but the her ladies were kind of grouped together, whereas her men, uh, you can imagine. In fact, most of what I was taught about the men, so um, you Sir Francis Drake laying down his cape, and it's all nonsense. None of it stands any scrutiny. And Sir Walter Raleigh introducing the tobacco and the potato and things.
mm,
Both of those were known of
mm, mm,
by sailors around the world long before he popularized them. But
mm,
that's what he did do. He did popularize them because he had estates in Ireland and decided that potatoes would be a good crop
mm,
because of the kind of soil there. And that led to massive disaster in
mm,
Ireland when all
mm,
that can be traced back.
mm,
But I think another theme is the way I've mentioned briefly how Robert Cecil pops up in different ages with different people.
mm,
It's the not it's the opposite to compartmentalization of history, that actually it's much more fluid and dynamic,
mm.
and there are threads which run through the whole thing. And we mustn't forget then
Yeah.
that, Charles Brandon he taught the young Henry VIII how to joust.
Mm.
You know?
Yes.
And that thread then runs through
I
to the
think,
point where
yeah.
he actually, his lance, Charles Brandon's lance, accidentally entered the visor of Henry
Oh
VIII.
God.
And
As those things used to happen. Oh.
he thought he'd killed him.
Mm,
And that, as you'll know, is when um, Anne Boleyn miscarried.
mm, mm,
So, there's so many fascinating
mm,
what ifs of history where
mm,
we've got enough corroboration of eyewitnesses to say that those are the events that happened. But I call her my mentor. We never met, but I was asked to write an obituary for her as Hilary Mantel.
yeah.
And she says, it's where the history ends is where the work of the historical novelist begins.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's more than just filling in the gaps.
Of course
Filling
it
in the
is.
gaps is not doing justice to the intellectual process, because it's actually exploring and dissecting the known facts
Mm,
in in a human way.
mm,
So if you take something like the sweating sickness,
mm,
um, or the plague, if you like, what I found was the experience of living through COVID
mm,
helped me relate to
mm,
those medieval diseases in a way that I never thought would be
mm.
possible.
Yeah.
So then when you go back, you can see that they did a lot of the things that we did, like
Mm,
social distancing, isolation, um, wacky cures that may or may not have worked and nobody will
Mm.
ever know, you know?
Yeah.
And we went through all of those things, but also how it blighted their lives. So Catherine Willoughby,
Yeah.
she isolated her two sons in the countryside, but unfortunately for her, she also decided that their cousin should stay with them as well, without realizing that he'd already got
Mm.
uh, the, I
Mm.
think it would have been a virus, the sweating sickness, and all three of them died
Mm.
in a 24-hour period, you
You know,
know.
it's such a heartbreaking story. I admire her so much for being able to pull her life back together after that. I mean, to
Yeah.
lose both your boys in one day.
But she thought she was doing the best
Oh
for
yeah,
them.
yeah,
That's
I
the
know,
saddest
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But as you say, she had Peregrine on her peregrinations
Mm.
with Richard Bertie on the continent,
Mm.
and it's interesting because Peregrine pops up as a commander in France in my book um, about Francis uh, when she's actually out in France, she meets him. So there's another kind of crossover
Mm.
theme there,
Mm.
which is perfectly legitimate.
Mm.
But I just
Yeah,
think I just find all of that
I find those
fascinating.
things fascinating too. Well, the things that speak to me from history that you just realize there's so much the same, but also so different.
Yeah, well, what I was able to, you know, there's I heard something the other day that Netflix, I think it's Netflix, are making a new Harry Potter series, and they're
They
doing,
are. They are.
instead of doing like they have to fit several books in one film, which is what the previous versions were. They're doing like a book, a whole series of 10 episodes or whatever on each book, because they've got the breadth and scope to do it. So they can really explore themes and ideas and connections. And it was a bit like that for me because I ended up spreading the story of the Tudors over 12 books, and that gave me a depth and a richness where it sometimes it reminded me. Have you been to Hampton Court and see those enormous tapestries in the Great
Oh,
Hall that take up
gorgeous.
the whole wall?
Yeah.
And I think, well, those that's what my books are like. It's an
Yeah.
enormous tapestry, not constrained into sort of like a Polaroid photograph. It's a massive undertaking, which has actually taken me 14 years to
But
do.
you've done remarkably. I mean, you do a book every year, which
Yeah.
makes me sort of because I could only write a book every 2 years.
But I am full
But
time on it, and I have been for the last 14 years. And the other thing is, I've developed a great system because what I do is I research now in the
mm,
summer. So I'm in research mode now,
mm,
visiting locations, tracking down primary sources, speaking to people, and picking up ideas and doing a lot of reading. And then I start writing seriously in the autumn.
mm,
So by then, I've already got an outline, but that's it, an outline and an Excel spreadsheet. So I know how many chapters, and I know that sort of 25 chapters of 4,000 words will give me 100,000 words to give to my editor in the spring. So she's pre-booked. I've had the same editor for the last, oh, I don't know, 8 books.
mm,
So she does more than editing because she looks at consistency across the series
mm,
to make sure that if I've called somebody something in one book, then that's the same in the next book.
mm,
And so for readers, they can pick up any of the books and read them in any order, and it'll be consistent. Yeah.
mm,
And then um, I used to try and give her a deadline, but you can't give editors
mm,
deadlines, can you? It doesn't work like that, really. So basically, when she's good and ready, I get to release the book in the summer, and the whole process starts over again.
Yeah.
So, sort of, ideally it would be about Easter time, but normally it's after that. But I'm already then researching the next one.
Yeah.
So what happened in the last couple of books of the Elizabethan series is, of course, the uh, somebody like Bess Raleigh outlived pretty much all of her contemporaries. She lived to the age of 80, I forget now, 82 or something like that. And so um, Elizabeth I sadly dies, and we have this chap called James coming down from Scotland.
Yes, we know
And
him. Yes.
I have a bit of had a bit of fun working out what they must have all thought of that, you
Mm,
know,
mm,
a Scottish king on the throne, and it's a bit like I shan't say it's a bit like having Donald Trump as president, but it's just as a radical shock to the
mm,
definition of what we mean
mm,
by um, king or queen of England.
mm.
Each of them brings a completely different set of ideas to it, don't they?
Yeah, that's right.
So, so that's where I'm headed now. Is I'm actually researching the Stuart dynasty,
Yeah.
and I find that fascinating because all I remember from school about the Stuarts was about basically Charles the First having his head cut off, and then there was the Fire of London and the Plague and the Civil War,
Yeah.
all sort of jumbled up together.
Mm.
And so I'm enjoying unpicking that and trying to see it through the eyes of people that were had experienced the Elizabethan times and to see how they would have
So
adjusted.
who's going to be your narrator for introducing us to James and Scotland coming into
Well,
England?
I was keeping it a secret,
Oh no,
but
okay. Mm,
no, I'll tell you because I've mentioned it in another um, another of these discussions. I couldn't help mentioning because I find it so intriguing. Is that um, the person's story that I started with is Anna of Denmark,
oh, fantastic. I
and
love that.
she's amazing. I mean, she cut up Elizabeth I's priceless gowns for her ladies to use in a mask and dress up as witches and things like that. She saw no harm in that. Uh,
And she
so,
also wore quite a few. I mean, I know there's one painting
oh yeah,
that Anne is wearing a dress that used to be was Elizabeth's. Yeah.
I find all that is quite well, not quite into the. Can you imagine that? That you probably do this better than me. Imagine that you're a 14-year-old girl in Denmark, and your parents announce to you, uh, firstly, the good news, you're going to marry a king. The not so good news is he's the King of Scotland, and you've got to go to Scotland across the North Sea, and it's very dangerous journey. So we doubt we'll ever see you again. So
Mm.
good luck with that. That's how my new book is starting really, and I- I'm just really enjoying learning
Mm.
about the real story of the Stuarts and exploring what James really was like
Yeah.
and how it could have been that this kind of relationship they negotiated between
So how do
themselves.
you actually find out what he really was like? What sort of books do
Well,
you look at?
I've got a
How did
secret
Ooh,
weapon. Um, Stephen Verapan, who is a
okay, yeah.
scholar, you might know of him,
Yep.
has written a brilliant book called The Wisest Fool, which is actually very insightful and extremely well
Mm,
researched. And that was my kind of jumping off point, if you like, for
mm,
starting to understand this. In his own way, he was just as
mm,
complex as Henry VIII or Elizabeth I.
mm,
It just seems to be the way things are, doesn't it? It
mm,
makes our current king seem quite modest.
Mm.
really, in
Yeah.
terms of his
James was definitely a very complicated man. Yeah,
yeah,
I often wonder because he was when his mother was pregnant. I think she was only 6 months pregnant when that horrible incident happened, and she had a pistol thrust against her belly. And you sort of wonder if because there's theories about if trauma happens to the mother while she's pregnant with
yeah.
the baby, it will. I mean, I don't know if
There
that's
was
true, but
there's
that.
a I mentioned about the kind of interrelatedness of all of this is that in my last book about Best Rally, there's a big fuss. Walter is in the tower, but we went to his cell in the tower by then. I don't know if you've
Oh
been
yeah,
there.
yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a little tiny herb garden outside. And when Walter was there, it was called the Garden Tower because he was allowed to have a garden where he used to grow
Mm,
herbs and make potions. He
mm,
actually used to grow tobacco leaves and
mm.
dry them in his cell over the fire and then smoke them in his little pipe, like a corncob pipe.
Mm,
So, but one of the visitors that turns up is none other than Anna of Denmark. This
yeah.
is well documented, and of course she's come to see Walter partly out of curiosity, but partly because she's heard about these herbal cures that he makes.
Mm.
And her son, the future
Yeah, yeah,
King
yeah,
of
Henry.
England,
Yeah.
Henry, yeah, he was the golden boy who was going to change history, really.
Mm,
And sadly, for him or for us, I suppose, for a bet, whether he was a bit drunk or what, he agreed to a bet that he could swim the River Thames from bank to bank. He's 15
mm,
at the time. It's the kind of thing you do when you're 15,
mm,
isn't it?
and yes.
Um, but of course, we have to remember that the River Thames was an open sewer
Mm, mm,
uh, with dead donkeys and I hate to think all sorts of
yeah,
abominations
yeah.
floating around in it. So it's hardly surprising. He did make it to the opposite bank, but he
Mm,
caught some dreadful illness from which he never recovered.
mm,
But it was during that recovery, attempted recovery, that Anna went out of desperation to see Walter and met Bess. So
mm,
there's all these crossovers,
mm,
which I'm really intrigued by to think that Bess then had a foot in the door with the
mm,
Stuart court, you see. And
mm,
of course, Anna, one of the things that she did, she was a patron of the arts and set up her own court almost independently of James's court.
mm,
James's court was really, um, I shan't say dour, but it was uh, very much a Scottish
mm,
model type
mm,
court, whereas Anna's lent much more towards her Danish heritage and was
mm,
much more the kind of stuff that Penelope Rich would have loved, masks and music and dancing
mm.
and all that kind of thing, you know?
Fascinating. It really is fascinating. Um, I was talking to, I mean, a friend of mine was emailing me the other day, and she's just got a book accepted, which was wonderful news. But she was told by her agent that historical fiction is falling off the hill, off the cliff. That's why it's so hard. I mean, I know it's really hard in Australia to find publishers for historical fiction. In Australia, publishers like books to do with Australian themes, and
Yeah.
so, it would be very hard to find a publisher interested in the Tudors over here. What do you feel? Do you think historical fiction is dead in the water? I mean, this is the.
Not at all.
I,
Well, all I know is that I'm continuing to make a comfortable living from it, and people are still buying my first book, Owen, in decent quantities. I have had them all made into audiobooks as well, which seems
yeah.
to be what most people do now.
Okay.
And um, it's completely changed from when I started out. when I started out, um, you could get if you got a book into the top 10 on Amazon, that was quite something. And the to have a number one on Amazon US meant that you were selling in excess of 10,000 copies a month.
Oh gosh,
So
yeah.
I did jolly well with Owen, I must admit, but it was the right place at the right time. And I think if I released that exact same book now, it wouldn't sell 10,000 copies a month.
Mm.
So that's quite interesting, isn't it? So what you say is partly right, but um, I'm concerned about. Uh, I've actually seen adverts on Facebook or somewhere saying, write a book in 5 minutes using AI.
Oh gosh, yes, I
Just
know.
put the prompt in
Yeah.
and we'll do the rest. And you
Mm.
think, oh God. I noticed there's a disclaimer on when you publish something on Amazon saying that no part of this book has used
Mm.
AI,
Mm.
including the cover.
Mm.
And so I commission artists and photographers to do my covers. And that's good because I'm supporting artists
Yeah.
and photographers in an increasingly challenging world.
Mm.
But I do wonder where it's all going to lead.
I know.
And
It is.
my
It's.
son,
Yep.
my son is studying AI, and he keeps saying to me, "Oh, Dad, have you seen this? Have you seen that? He showed me a thing the other day where you put your book cover in. I put Bess in. This is a book cover which is done by a commercial
Mm.
artist, by
Mm.
the way. And you put a single line of text in saying, create a video of this book cover where the subject will turn and smile and then turn away and look away. And it does it in a couple of seconds.
I want to know where you can go and try. Oh, that sounds fun.
I
Oh,
send
thank
you
you. That would be
the thing.
fantastic.
But um, it's just mind-boggling. I find it mind-boggling.
It is. It is. It's a real
My
new world,
my son
and
is excited about it, and my grandson takes it all in his stride. When
yeah,
you show it to him, he doesn't say, "Oh, wow, that's amazing," like I would
yeah.
say.
I
He
don't.
says,
I don't want to be
"Is that all
competing.
it does?"
I don't want to
Is
be competing with AI novels. I mean, that's so unfair.
but
It's so
um,
unfair.
I think the interesting thing is that the rise of AI puts a premium on authenticity
Mm.
and creativity, which is genuinely
Mm.
human spirit
Mm.
and not um, an artifice. So
Mm.
that means that if like me, you write books which are really about the people, rooted firmly in the facts, but they're really about
Mm.
relationships and people and how they felt
Mm.
and how they thought and those kind of things, then although AI could approximate that, um, a discerning reader would quickly spot the difference. And it's just the same as if you look at two book covers, one's done by a very talented, creative artist, and one's
Mm.
done by AI. There's something about the AI one still, which is a bit
Mm.
not quite there. But
Yeah.
I'm fairly relaxed about it because I know that my work has been done without the use of AI
Mm.
at all
Mm.
and never will be. And that's if I'm the very last one that turns out the lights, then at least I was there at the end.
Oh, that's I feel the same. And yeah, I actually was one of the many writers where Facebook's Meta had stolen from another pirated site to feed its AI and train it. And you think, oh, this that's where I find it really quite evil in the sense that
Yeah.
as we know, Facebook is worth so much, I can't even estimate how much money um, Facebook is worth. And there it goes, basically going to, um, I can't remember the pirated site's name, but where everyone's books had been stolen and steals those books to feed its AI. I mean, there's something that's really stinking there and real
There is
and very wrong.
there is something strange has happened within the publishing industry as well, in that I was absolutely
Mm,
delighted when I got my first commercial publisher,
mm,
and they wanted all of my books, and they were promised me the earth. And I found that they were sending me payments which were very round numbers, and I wondered how they'd arrived at those figures, because for them to be round numbers, I'd expect them to be, odd numbers for sale number of books sold or whatever. And that was and I realized then that they had an Office Junior was like um, paying the authors enough to keep them quiet, really, kind of thing. But they weren't doing an awful lot of anything else for me.
mm,
I didn't have any say really in the original covers. Is that they presented me with a couple Hobson's choice of
mm,
covers,
mm,
which were well done, but not. Um, I had no input into it really, and then in terms of promotion, um, I never knew what they were up to, because basically they didn't used to give me much feedback on what they were doing, what was
mm,
working well, what wasn't working. So I
mm,
was kind of working blindfold on social
mm,
media, trying to share
mm,
links to my books. And what happened was that the publishing company, as does happen, got taken over by another company who didn't even have a track record in historical
mm,
fiction.
mm,
And I saw on the news that the lady that was the CEO of it was promising she was going to have a better deal for her authors. So I got in touch with her and congratulated her on her appointment. I shan't say who she is, but what she did, um, she allowed me to break my contract, which was written to
mm,
entirely advantage them and
mm,
entirely disadvantage me in
mm,
perpetuity. And so I then got control of my manuscripts, and I set up my own publishing company, which I call Preseli Press. The mountains in Wales out of my window are the Preseli Hills, actually. And now I have complete control over every aspect of
mm,
the process. So I commission the artists for the covers. I brief them. I tell them exactly the kind of feel that I want from it. And then I give them creative freedom.
I love your covers. I think your covers are
Well,
fantastic.
they thank you. A lot of work goes into them, and one or two of them have been done a dozen different versions until we hit on something that we
Mm,
both agreed. So it's a partnership, isn't it?
mm,
Yeah. And the main thing is that I get 70% royalties now.
mm,
So I used to get, I don't know what percentage,
mm,
20%.
mm.
I have
Yeah,
no idea. So
yeah.
a book is being sold for 20 quid and I'm getting 20 pence or something. I don't know. It wasn't the real beneficiaries of the whole process were the publishers, obviously.
I,
That was they were
I
that
think you
was
should. I think you should write a book for authors on how to have a sustainable writing life, because that has never happened. Like I said, there's only been once in my life where things were interesting for me, and I got chased by the Australian tax person to say that I
oh
owed them money.
don't yeah, don't talk to me about what I should have done. My wife actually said to me, you need an accountant. And because I came from an IT
Mm,
background,
mm,
um, in the UK, the
mm,
HMRC have got this online
mm,
self-assessment service, and I thought I was perfectly capable of doing that. But on the drop-down list of types of employment, there isn't author. There's everything else under the sun, from farmer to doctor
mm,
or whatever, but there's not author. So the closest that would fit it would be journalist was one of the things,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm not a journalist.
yeah.
I'm not a historian either.
Mm,
So it seemed wrong to claim that I was an academic
mm,
or anything. Um, so the tax bill that I got um, was almost like the the straw that broke the camel's
oh
back, because on
gosh.
top of having these rather mysterious publishers who were
Mm,
sending me in dribs and drabs, um, I seem to be paying way more tax.
mm,
I was
mm,
paying the highest rate of tax in the
mm,
UK,
mm,
and I got an accountant, and he said, "Oh, you need to set this up as a limited company and all these kind of things,"
mm,
which is
mm,
what we did. But that was quite a steep learning curve.
mm,
And
mm.
I didn't realize that what I'm talking to you on now is the absolute state of the art new MacBook Pro,
Mm,
which has got AI on the operating system,
mm.
by the way.
Yes, it does.
But all of that is set against tax, you see.
Mm, mm.
So I don't know if it's the same in Australia, but in the
Oh yes,
UK,
yes, yes. But then
depreciated.
you have to earn enough to be able to claim from if you got to have an income to be able to claim back what you've spent,
Yeah, of course.
which I don't
So
really have that much of
I'm
income at
yeah,
the
so
moment.
I'm
Mm,
at the moment I'm sustainable. I think the reason that it is sustainable is I had this really strong idea, which was to write 12 books telling the whole story of the Tudors.
yeah,
And I think I'm hoping that people will be sufficiently interested in what happened next with the
yeah.
Stuarts. And I challenge you to find um, historical fiction books about the Stuart dynasty, which give a genuinely behind the scenes, insightful,
Mm,
accurate, historically
mm,
accurate, but also exploring the real emotions
mm,
and sentiments of the people involved.
mm.
So that's the challenge I've set myself, and that will keep me quiet for the next 3 years at least.
It does keep us busy, doesn't it? Well, this has been a really fascinating discussion. I really enjoyed listening to you. I think the final question that I have to ask you, what's your advice to anybody out there who wants to write a work of historical fiction?
You have to choose something which you have a bit of a passion for, like yourself.
Mm,
And if you've got a bit of a passion for it, I think that shines through in the
mm,
writing. And
yep.
the other thing that I say to people, because a lot of people say, "Oh, it's all right for you writing full time. I'd never have time. I've got a busy life. I could never write a book."
You can always find time to write if you want to.
I think it was Stephen King that said, "If you can write one page a day, that's a book a year."
Mm,
And I try to write at least one page a day um, from September onwards. Yeah.
mm,
Sometimes it's many more than that. Sometimes I wake up in the morning with a whole load of dialogue in my head that I have to write down as quickly as I can. And I find that I've written a chapter, before breakfast sort of thing. But if you could write a page a day, which isn't too much of a challenge, is it?
mm,
Um, then you do end up with a book at the end of it, and you
mm,
do that every year. You've got a book a year.
mm, mm.
And just while it occurs to me, I'd like to thank you as well, because we go back a long way, don't we?
We do. We do.
I think
The
we're
thing
talking
is that
about a
I have
decade.
always been so, I mean, you've been amazingly supportive of my writing life, and I am very grateful. Very, very grateful.
Well, you've been a bit of an inspiration as well. So
Oh,
it goes back easily 10 years, if not 12 or so.
oh,
But I read your books really quite early on, and they have been an influence. So there we are. There's a
thank
bit of
you.
acknowledgement.
Oh, thank you. That's lovely. That's really nice. Oh, it makes my heart sing, Tony. Always those sort of knowing that there's readers that have enjoyed my work.
Definitely.
It
Yeah.
means I think for us as writers to know that there are readers out there that have enjoyed what we've done. And yeah, we always need that too, that reassurance that there are readers out there that enjoy what we do, because it's a lot of work to write a novel, and even though it is a work of passion for us, it still means that we are locking ourselves away by ourselves with our characters for, well, for me, like I say, it takes 2 years to write a novel, even longer. So it's a huge life commitment. So it's good to know that there are readers out there. Thank you. Means a lot.
Yeah.
Really, really grateful.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me.
Oh, look, no, I've been meaning
You,
to do this for a while.
you
It's
had
been
to
really,
get
really
very
good.
early in the morning.
I was disappointed not to get to Wales to be able to say, hey, just let's meet at a pub or whatever. But next time when I'm in
Well,
England,
one of us is on the wrong side of the world.
and it's really frustrating for me with my passion for Tudor history, and also Spanish history now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just too hard to come over there. I mean, if I can get over there every other year, that's a blessing, but it's not cheap. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I know I have to do a lot of justifying to my family as to why am I doing this. Because they yeah, it is,
Well,
not easy to
it's
be
really
right.
nice to speak to you again.
It's been
And
lovely.
perhaps we can have a talk about the Stuarts at some point.
I would love
Because
that. I'd
I'm
love
I'm
that.
going to become
I want to hear what
um,
you feel
an
about James.
expert on the Stuarts.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot. So you got up to, are you planning to um go up to James the Second?
Yes,
Okay. Ooh.
yes.
Ooh, that'll be
So I
interesting.
get into some interesting stuff there, and I've already started reading about Catherine of Braganza.
Yeah. Yeah, I love her
Mm,
actually. I think
yeah,
she's quite fascinating.
I think so as
Not
well.
only just because she brought tea into England, but at least that's the story I believe.
No, I think that's right. She popularized it. It's like the same as Walter Raleigh with tobacco. He
Mm,
made it fashionable.
that's right. Thank you so much. I'm going to go back to bed now, but I'm going to end. So so it's been wonderful talking to you, and I'll stop the recording.